Hi, this is John Carpenter, and welcome to the 70mm screening of my movie, The Thing. The original film, The Thing from Another World, was made in 1951 and remains one of my favorite movies. It's a great science fiction horror film. It was at least co-directed by Howard Hawks, one of my favorite directors. And it's got some of the greatest scare moments, early scare moments in science fiction movies of the 50s. And I was offered The Thing, to remake The Thing at Universal in 1981, and I thought long and hard about it because I didn't want to compete with the old film, which was greatly loved by myself and many fans. So I went back to the novella upon which both films are based, Who Goes There by Donald Stewart, otherwise known as John Campbell. And it's a vastly different story. So I thought, if we just ignore the first movie and ignore sort of the science fiction tropes of the time and it's the dated nature of it, and go for a more literal reading of the novella, I thought we'd be in better shape. In terms of scripting the film, I hired a young writer named Bill Lancaster. He had done The Bad News Bear several years earlier. I was very impressed with him. And he had a great take on the material, and he came up with some ideas for some great sequences. But as originally written, the monster was not delineated in the movie. There's this cliche about it's always better never to show the face of the devil, never show the monster, always suggest it. And I was struggling with that until I came on Rob Bottin, who did the special effects. And he suggested the kind of secret of the movie, which was the thing can look like anything. It doesn't have to look like one creature. It could look like every life form it's imitated throughout the universe, because it's been on its travels for a long, long time. So it was a chance to create a monster that was design-based and based on the movement we could give it, and based on some really crazy kind of offbeat ideas. I don't know that there's been a monster done like this. Rob Bottin convinced me, and that's the way we went. Major conflict on the set was between the director of photography, Dean Cundy, and the special effects creator, Rob Bottin. Rob Bottin had done The Howling and had generally felt that all the monster stuff, all the creature, the thing emerging, should be done in complete silhouette or backlight or rim light. And Dean Cundy felt, well, if we're going to go down this route with this creature, let's bring it out in the light. Let's put a lab light right on it. Let's shine the light right on this creature and make it visible to us audience, we audience. This is a constant creative struggle. The experience of making the movie was somewhat unpleasant in a number of ways. The first shooting that we did on the film was in the ice fields above Juneau, Alaska. This is essentially where all the weather begins in the United States. And we went up there for a couple of weeks, and it was pretty grim. It was pretty grim because not so much that it was cold, it was actually warmish weather. But the sun would beat down so hard on you. And if you had an overcast layer of clouds, the light would bounce back and forth between snow and clouds, and I got completely fried. I fried up my skin on the thing. I think that's why I've had little reoccurrences of skin cancer ever since, because of that experience. Then we moved down to Los Angeles and we shot the interiors. And to get the idea of breath, we refrigerated the stages down to about freezing. Actually, it was a little higher than that, 40 degrees, maybe a little less. And you still had to push it. In other words, actors had to drink coffee and really sell the breath idea, but it was nice. It gave a tactile sense to the sequences. Then finally, after all this, we jumped up to Stewart, British Columbia. And halfway up the mountain is a glacier upon which we built the Antarctic Station. It was extremely grueling and debauched, which I won't go into now. And finally, then there was the rest of the special effects shooting, the parts that we didn't do with the cast and crew. And that was equally painful in its own way. But we finally finished it up and got her done. Over the years, people have asked me about The Thing because on its release, it was not particularly successful with the audiences or fans. But years later, because of home video and so forth, it got to be known a little bit better. But my reaction, I was pretty stunned by it at the time because I made a really grueling, dark film, and I just don't think audiences in 1982 wanted to see that. They wanted to see E.T. And The Thing was the opposite of that. The thing that disturbed me about it was that the fans turned out hating it so much. There was a famous magazine back then called Cine Fantastique, which was loved and hated by various directors, and they had a story that said, "Is this the most hated film of all time?" Which didn't do a lot to assuage my ego, but I'm very proud of the movie. I've always loved it. It's one of my favorite of my own films. And I think it still looks well, and I hope you all enjoy watching it tonight in 70mm.